So I'm an addict. My name is Rob. Hey, family. Happy to be here. And like I said, I apologize in advance for the coughs. Getting over a cough for like 2 weeks. It should be gone any day now. I'm drinking lots of water. But my addiction didn't take breaks when I was sick, so my recovery shouldn't take breaks either, I think. Thanks for the introduction, Phil, and thanks, Ryan, for asking me to speak. Thank you very much, and welcome to any newcomers I don't know. I'm really glad you're here. We all got our different definitions of newcomers, you know. But if you feel new or if you haven't lost the desire to use yet, I'm really glad you're here. And welcome to the guests for your professions. It's awesome. This past Wednesday, I celebrated 8 years clean, and I say that to give hope to anybody that's new, and I also say I celebrate 8 years clean, and NA is like my only tool of recovery, really. I haven't found I needed nothing else. I'm not saying nothing else works or nothing like that, just I'm very fortunate to have found a way that works through the 12 steps of NA and meetings and sponsorship and service and all that stuff that we call the program, and it works, man. Well, for me, I'm very fortunate. Today is one of my good friends' 28-year anniversary, Mike M. He used to live out here. He lives up in Wisconsin now. He was real big to me, like Phil was saying. I mean, thank you for the kind words, Phil. That was Mike to me when I came in, or might even bigger. But anyways, I also say that for myself, man, because I got to remember, you know, I'm happy to have 8 years clean. I got to remember where I come from, man. I came from hell. And I know I'm not special. When Ryan asked me to speak, here's my first cough, right? I was really excited. This group itself, Gratitude Emotions, name of this group, I believe, right? This group was where I held my first service position in NA, man. You know, I was secretary. I got clean in March of '08. And before I got clean, I watched wrestling, WWE. It changed. Before, it used to be WWF. It was WWE before I got clean. But I used to watch it, Monday Night Raw, 8 o'clock, USA, right? And so and I got clean, and I was clean for like about 3 months, and everyone's talking about service. And I clearly remember when we have a tradition around here when people get medallions for their anniversaries, people are like, how'd you do it? And people are like, service is one of the things that people said a lot. And I know it's people that have years clean did service, to hold service positions. So I stayed for this business meeting and not knowing nothing, you know, and I'm like, I should get involved, whatever. And people are like, oh, Rob, you should be the secretary. It's 3-month commitment. And I'm like, man, I'm like just finishing that 90 meetings in 90 days. I really want to watch wrestling. You know, I'm like, let me think about it. And I remember, you know, that's where the recovery started kicking in. My brain also said, you know, Rob, dude, you've been clean like 3 months. Like, it was hard for me to put 3 days together before I came here. You know what I'm saying? Screw wrestling. And what's funny is I don't even watch wrestling no more. Like, I have nothing against it, but I grew out of it in a sense, or I changed. We all change, right? But I'm so glad I made that commitment then to be the secretary. It was my first, you know, position. And you know, I don't need a position to hug people, but it made me feel special, you know. And when there's newcomers and they become secretaries or the chairpersons, and you can see they're excited to feel connected, a part of something, that makes me feel really good, man. So, you know, one thing I love about NA, I don't want to talk too much on my past. I reflect on my past a lot before I got here by myself, so I don't forget where I come from. But I know when I talk about it, I could go on forever, you know. And then next thing you know, if I'm speaking, there's like 5 minutes left, and I'm like, oh, I didn't talk about recovery yet. And, you know, I come to meetings to get recovery, not learn how to shoot dope, you know. But you know, we all got our views on needing to identify too, you know. But one thing I love about NA is it's not like, why am I an addict? The nature versus nurture debate. It's just like, I come here, I'm like, I got a drug problem. And these people were like, hey, we did too, and this is what we do. And we don't have drug problems no more, you know. I don't know the scientific or counseling terms or whatnot. I used to look into a little bit, but it's not the nature versus nurture. And we all have our opinions and beliefs. I think, you know, for me, whether it's why am I an addict or religious or political stuff, you know, you're going to go do research. You're going to find what you want to find. Am I an addict? Was I born or did I become one? I know for me, my parents, they never got into drugs much. I'm one of those addicts too in NA. I used to be what we call an NA Nazi. I'm not no more. I don't say drugs and alcohol. Our literature's talked about alcohol is a drug. Alcohol is a drug. Period. You know, I don't say it because, you know, part of my story, when I first found about NA, I thought, oh, I'm an alcoholic or an addict, not an alcoholic. I could still drink, at least. And, you know, it happened to me when I used to put a few beers in me then. I wind up on the west side picking up dope, you know. So I'm not confused. I don't say addict and alcoholic or drugs and alcohol. It's just for me, I'm not telling people what to say. I'm powerless over what people say. You can tell people whatever you want. They're going to say whatever they want. But I don't say it for me because I don't want to end up believing it myself, that alcohol is different from drugs. Alcohol is just legal. I used to say, and like socially acceptable. I used to be like, it's liquid too, but I used to make heroin liquid, so what are you going to do? It's not different then, right? You know, my parents don't even drink much, and got, you know, they raised me that drugs were bad. And I believe that. And yeah, as a kid, my parents' word was like gospel to me, right? Drugs are bad. Okay, drugs are bad. Now, and this is just for me about my past. I was also raised that sex is bad. So, and I believe that. And then when I hit puberty and started thinking about sex and girls and found pornography and found masturbation, I thought I was a bad person. And for me, I had no one that I felt I could talk to. And then I got in trouble with the law. I did a couple bad things, you know. And I didn't get caught, but I felt bad that I did them. And then I got caught, so I had the guilt for doing things. And then I got caught, and I got a slap on the wrist. But then I felt the shame for making my parents look like bad parents when I'm getting in trouble with the law at 13 years old. Nothing like you could say super serious, but it was, you know, you shouldn't get in trouble with the law at 13, right? Or period, right? But I felt bad. I felt like a bad person at 13, 14 years old. I'm a bad person. And I remember thinking, too, like, it wasn't like, oh, I wish I had someone to talk to about this. It was just like, wow, I'm this young and I'm already a fuck-up, you know? But I didn't do drugs till I was 15, which is kind of late nowadays. But shortly before I got into drugs, we moved, and I made friends, and I had a fresh start, and I'm like, this is good now, a fresh start. And soon afterwards, we started drinking and smoking, and, you know, like, to be cool, I started using to fit in, and I found out quickly that it numbed me to my feelings. I didn't remember all the things I regretted when I was drunk or high, and I didn't drink more than my friends, but I drank faster. You know, I smoked more probably. I was a big pothead, but I started drinking and smoking at 15, and people would be like, "You got to slow down," and I'd be like, "Those people doing coke, those are drug addicts." And at 18, I got turned on to coke and like that, and hooked. You know, those people doing heroin and crack, those are drug addicts. And at 20, I got turned on to heroin and crack, and I'm like, "Oh, those people shooting dope, those are drug addicts." And I'm fortunate to have. I got clean a month after I started shooting dope. And I love tattoos. I love needles when they're in machine guns. Machine guns. Tattoo machines. But when they're syringes, I don't like needles. But, you know, luckily I got clean a month after I started doing that. And I did a lot of drugs. So, a lot of varied drugs. But anyways, I got clean at 23. What's cool about celebrating 8 years clean recently is I used for 8 years. So I got this, like, balance. I got some time back. I used from 15 to 23. And at 21, I met my wife. 2 months later, she was pregnant with my child. And I thought that would get me clean. That didn't get me clean. I put her through hell. My wife's not an addict. A low point in my addiction was my son's first birthday party. I remember swearing up and down to myself. I'll get emotional maybe with my story, man. Like, I can't use today. I was hooked on heroin at the time, you know, physical. It's a physical addictive drug, you know. And I'm like, I can't use today. And our party was in our backyard. And I ended up saying, like, I'm going to go get some pop. And I came back hours later, all strung out. And my fucking wife was so pissed, you know. And I couldn't help it, you know. A month later, I checked into a rehab or a detox, and a nurse named Mia, so that's God bless, like nurses searching out stuff, you know, told me when she was checking me in, you know, when you get out, you have better odds if you go to Narcotics Anonymous meetings, you know. I didn't know what it was. I thought this was like counseling, you know, and NA's hard to describe if you're not a part of it, you know, or stick around and stay. That's why they say 90 meetings in 90 days. People say 90 meetings in 90 days, so you can get to understand more what it is, you know. My job has like a 90-day trial period, so you see, do you like this? Do we like you? Do you like us? Well, we like you, but do you like us, you know? You understanding your role and what we do here? So I came out and I went to one meeting a week, sometimes two, and I didn't listen to a damn thing anybody said. I wasn't willing, you know. I went to and we talked about in the literature, I'm a big fan of the literature, the reading of the three principles indispensable are honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, you know. I think a trick is holding on to that shit, you know. I've got willing 100 times I wanted to quit, but when it got hard, like, I guess I'll use again, you know, but that willingness to hold on. So I used for 6 more months after I found out about NA. I'm lucky it only took 6 months for me to freaking surrender, you know. And the last night I got high, March of '08, boy, I could get on to that story forever. It was a really bad night. My wife hit a rock bottom with me, and a few hours later I hit another rock bottom. And Phil said before, was it like, the thing about rock bottoms is then you dig sideways, or you dug sideways, you know? It was just like, you know, and then they say the things like they all got trap doors or shit, you know? It was just, I was tired. My last time using, I was the most suicidal I ever was, you know? I wanted to end my life because I was tired of hurting my wife. My son was 19 months old. I thought if I die, maybe they'll have a shot at life. I'm so glad I didn't fucking commit suicide. I wasn't like about to. I wanted to get a gun. I didn't have a gun. I was a nobody. I was a piece of scum drug addict. You know, work for a little money, get paid Wednesday, broke Thursday, borrow money all week, and owing people money all the time and cigarettes. So anyways, so I got clean at 23, man, and I came to NA, and my first meeting. Back or serious meeting, I picked up a key tag and got hugged, and I had a sponsor. Actually, I asked the guy a few weeks earlier if he'll sponsor me, and he said yeah. And I went up to him after that meeting and was like, "What do you guys do?" And he, I'm so glad. He said this is a 12-step fellowship, so let's start in step 1. You know, and I'm so glad I was taught from the beginning to get into the steps. You know, and we all have our different ways to work steps and all understanding of the steps, but I'm big into working the steps with the sponsor, and I'm big on that sponsor bit part too, man. I came here, I thought I knew what the steps might mean, but I didn't know shit, right? And people, I'll do H&I, I'll go into rehabs. Guys are like, why do I need a sponsor? You guys come here and explain the steps. I'll just do them myself. And I'm like, you can't. It doesn't work like that. I can't, you know, sorry, it don't work. I needed someone who's been there and done it and teach me how to turn my will, my life over to the care of the God of my understanding. I need someone to help me explain that to me on a one-on-one personal relationship. My sponsor, I'm on my 3rd sponsor, but I've had him most of my recovery. He is such a great guy, and he's just another addict. You know, but we have a great relationship, and it takes a lot. You know, great relationships don't just happen like that. You know, but he's saved my life a lot, and he's helped grow me into the. You know, I have this thing. You know, for me, this is like a struggle. I'll share with you guys as I get a little clean time where I don't want to sound like I'm cocky when I'm like, I got 8 years clean and I know some stuff, and I don't want people, and that's my problem here is I don't want people thinking less of me or oh, he thinks he's cocky, and I don't mean it like that, you know, but and it's like clean time don't equal recovery, like Phil was saying too, and it's so true, man. I know addicts with lots of clean time that are stupid, and I've been that stupid addict a lot of times, you know. This shit doesn't it doesn't stick all the time, really, you know. There's moments where I'm like, no. Last 2 weeks ago, man, it was about 2 to 3 weeks ago, I had one of the stupidest things I did. I yelled at a cop. A lot. And I have a bachelor's in criminal justice, and that's because of NA. I went to college and got a degree, and I'm very respectful to law enforcement, but I just wasn't having it. And I yelled at a cop, and he called for backup, and that backup was standing, and I knew what they were doing because I studied that shit in college. The cop was standing to back up next to my passenger window, showing me her taser, like, fuck, how dare you? You know, she didn't have to say it. She's showing me, and I'm yelling at her. You know, luckily they didn't tase me or do nothing. They gave me a ticket, you know, and drove off. And I was telling an addict this. He's like, then you calm down. We saw that taser. I'm like, that still took me 10 minutes later to be like, what the fuck were you thinking, Rob? You know what I was thinking? I wasn't thinking rationally. I was letting my feelings control me, and I think that's part of addiction for me. Well, it seems like I have a hard time handling my emotions, my feelings. So that was scary. But on the other hand, when I was talking about my struggle, my problem is I think too much of what people think of me. That's what I'm talking about, my struggle. I got 8 years clean, and it feels good, and it's not like I'm better than, but it's the hope, man, because we did in this group too. It's a tradition out here in the West Suburbs. Anyone with a year or more clean, raise your hand, right? When I had like a month or two clean, this guy raised his hand, right? I went to him after the meeting or on break, and I'm like, wow, you got a year clean? And he was like offended. He's like, I got 2 or 3 years clean. And I'm like, you just need a year, and I thought you were a god, when I had a month clean. A year clean? Oh my, how would you do that, Now I got 8 years clean, and it's not so much how you do it. I know how to do it. I don't get high just for today, no matter what. That's the first and foremost thing. Day's almost over. It's 8:10. Right? I'll go to bed I usually bed by like 9:30, but I'll probably go to bed at 10:30 tonight. I got a couple hours left. Don't use no matter what. If I feel like using, I use one of the tools of the program. The literature saved my ass a lot when I was new. I used to carry around the informational pamphlets in my back pocket at my first job. I didn't have a smartphone to read literature, but when I felt the need to use and I couldn't call somebody because I'm at work, read the literature and it'll get me out of it. I came in total atheist. But eventually I started learning how to pray to whatever was out there, and through the steps I've come to a concept of a higher power. It makes sense to me and not to a lot of other people, but that don't matter. It works for me, and that's changed a lot through the years. The God stuff hung me up, not when I first got clean, but after the fog was lifted, then people talking about God in the meetings upset me, because this is a spiritual, not religious program, but it works well for a lot of people that are religious. One of the women in the program got clean the same year I did, Melissa Kay. She came in with a faith in her God, and she shares about, and I love it, that the NAs helped her improve that faith with her, that relationship with her God. I'm like, God, that's cool. I came in with no God, and I've come to understand, and it's changed, but that's just me. Some people keep the same one, but the steps help build that relationship. That's awesome. I work by myself, so my relationship with my God is pretty important to me, because I pray or talk or meditate to it, whatever, throughout the day at work, especially when I'm stressed out. It's better to do it all the time, so I'm not stressed out as much. But yeah, not to scare anyone that has under a year clean, man. This is just for me. My first year sucked. I'd come in meetings and be like, life is great, I'm not doing drugs. But the other 23 hours a day, I was just like, life sucks. I don't know what to do. I don't want to like over-exaggerate it, man, because a lot of people had it, maybe worse than me. The thing is, it's not about the physical rock bottoms. It's about the spiritual for me, the spiritual rock bottom. The being okay with dying. Not even though was I just suicidal towards the end. I remember a couple years before I got clean, thinking I was overdosing. I was thinking I was overdosing on heroin while I was shooting pool, and I was just like, I should go and I did this. I'm like, I'll just go to the bathroom and go in the stall, so hopefully I'll nod off and not wake up. And if I go in the stall, maybe no one will notice. Maybe this will be it. It'll finally be over with. And I laid there, and I never fucking died. And I was like, fuck. It's not like I wanted to blow my brains out at that point. I was okay with dying. That's crazy. You think about it, right? And I say this as it's people that know me know I'm big into my family and my wife and son. My wife married me after I was clean for a year and a half. The month I celebrated a year and a half, it was September of 2009. A year and a half, got married and started college. Man, that was a good month, dude. That was a good month. September of 2009. That was a good month. Still married. Our relationship's great because of NA. And her, she's very spiritual. But my son, he was 19 months old when I got clean. And he's 9. If you ask him, he says he's 9.5. He's the center of my life, man. My wife is too. It's crazy. Like, I love him. We have our things. I don't know how to explain it. It's like me and her are great. Me and him are great. Him and her are great. And the three of us together are great. It's just the three amigos, man. It's great. We have our struggles time to time, but last fall, my wife and me got suckered into, he wanted to try soccer at AYSO stuff, so we ended up coaching. We got suckered into it. 2 people that never played soccer, 3, he never did either. We're coaching, I had a team of like 12 kids, and I'm like, man, if they knew, after the season, one of the mothers, she Facebook friend requested us, and I had to message her first, like, listen, I'm in recovery, but I've been in recovery for years. I never had drugs on the field or nothing. And she was like, oh, it's cool. I know people. That's the thing, too, nowadays. Everyone knows people. Addiction's a big thing. It's becoming more acceptable. Recovery is becoming more socially known and not so much of a stigma. But, my employer don't know about my past. I don't want them to know. That's just for me. But, my son, who used to coach his basketball for school the past two years, it's great to see what he gets into, man, and now I raise him differently. We started having the sex talks. I don't tell him it's bad. I'm telling him, oh yeah, it's good, but we're finding what works well for us, and even besides that, a little bit. Oh my God, I made a mistake. It was this school year. He's in 4th grade. I get paranoid. I have a lot of stuff still wrong. I don't do drugs, but there's a lot of stuff wrong with me. I don't want to say it's a mistake, but I told him, like, it was as he was starting school in August. I'm like, because he's in 4th grade. And he goes to a private school, so my wife's like, there's no drugs there. And I'm like, they're everywhere, And there probably aren't there, but I don't want him making the same mistakes I did. But I know because of the first step, too, applying it, I can't do shit of what my son's going to do, what he wants to do in life. But I can lead by example, So I told him, Dad used to do drugs a long time ago, and they ruined his life, and he's fortunate he got out of it. But a lot of people don't get out of it. That's the thing. A lot of us addicts don't get clean, man. All of us sitting in here are blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call it, fortunate. Excuse me. He freaking told his class one time. Yeah, like some drugs didn't come up, but something came up, and his teacher told me. No, wait. He told me, I'm sorry, he told me, like, yeah, I told my class how you used to do drugs, but you don't know more, and you go to meetings, and I'm like, oh, crap, and I'm like, well, what happened after you said that? He's like, my teacher said, hey, let's change the topic. And so then when I dropped him off the next day, I'm like, hey, I'm sorry to her. She's like, it's okay, I changed it quickly, and we all have our past, so that was cool. But, I don't want to make the same mistakes, and he's going to do what he's going to do, but I hope he does it, man. To touch on the blessings I've had, you could say I've worked through the steps. I say blessings a lot, and let me say that too. And when I was in that weird God thing where I used to get angry, literature, I don't know if they have the informational pamphlet, we call them IPs back there behind them. There's one called Welcome to NA, and it says in the back, and I could quote literature, but that doesn't make me smart, but it says, we're glad you came here, blah, blah, blah. It's important that for you to know that you'll hear the word God mentioned at our meetings. And what we're referring to is a power that makes possible what seems impossible. And we found that power in the rooms. I really like that definition, guys. Because when I came here, I thought I could never stop using, and I stopped using. Then I got clean, and I thought, man, I'll never stop thinking of getting high. Because I thought of getting high for about 8 months. It was Thanksgiving of '08 when I lost the desire. I remember because it was Thanksgiving night. I think it's important to say, you can say it's not talked about a lot. I don't hear it. But then I get this. My thoughts contradict each other a lot. It's not my job to be like, this is what our message is, and this is this, and this is this. It's not a lecture, right? But the literature is very nice. In the 5th tradition of the basic text, talks about what our message is in NA. That's an addict. Any addict can stop using drugs, lose the desire to use, and find a new way of life. It's a 3-part message, man. That losing the desire was very big for me, man. Some people it comes like that. Some people it takes forever, I've heard. It took me about 8 months, but that became possible. I thought it would be, but it became possible. After a year clean, I thought, man, maybe I should, maybe this will work. Maybe I should go to college and maybe statistically increase my odds of making more money, so my kid would have a good life. Before I got clean, I never thought of going to college. I went to college. I stayed clean. I still went to meetings and all that good stuff. But about 2 years ago, I quit smoking. Holy crap. and here comes the vape crap, right? I'm saying that because Phil was talking about earlier. I quit. I'm not. People do what they do. It's cool. I quit without vape. I quit with the patch and the steps, and when I did, it was just like the drugs. I'm like, I can't do this. There was times it was after dinner. That was the biggest trigger for me when I woke up and after dinner. And I'm not here like I am anti-cigarettes, but that's not my message here. But the addiction of and thinking I can't do this, and I'd call my sponsor like I gotta go smoke, man. He's like, no, the day's almost over. You ate dinner. Just finish the day off. You could do this, Rob. And gradually I stopped wanting to smoke cigarettes. Now I very rarely crave cigarettes, and I'm so happy. It took me 6 months of being clean before I put that addiction down. But for me, I was like, man, dude, I'm in my late 20s. I was 29. I'm like, I got clean in my 20s. Maybe I could quit smoking in my 20s. And I want grandchildren one day, and tobacco kills 1 out of every 3. There I go with the anti-smoking, right? But I heard the other day, Matt, oh my God, at the Oswego meeting. Which one? Oswego. When he took the smoke break at the meeting, he's like, let's take a break for our addiction. I'm like, oh, that's great. But I'm not getting self-righteous. I'm joking around with all this stuff. I find my path, what works well for me. So anyways, there's been so much stuff in my recovery that's been tough and good, but it's all just a journey, man. And I'll end with this, a saying I like that I heard before on a speaker tape, because I love speaker tapes, obviously, right? I think it was Greg P. He wasn't a co-founder, but he was real big in writing some of the early literature, and he was clean for a long time, and I think 30-some years, and he died in the 90s clean. And he, speaker tape, he said one time that stuck out was, people say this recovery process is painful, and I call bullshit. A lack of recovery is painful. Recovery is the relief of that pain, So I try to think of that when I'm in pain, like, I need to apply some recovery here. That's and that's usually the fucking answer, right? So, anyways, I'm very grateful to be clean, and I love you all, and thank you very much.